Welcome to another episode of Raven Conversations. I'm Josie Mandel, State Public Affairs Officer for the Washington National Guard. And today I'm joined by Chief Warrant Officer Bill Elliot with the Washington State Guard and Erik Riske. He is the Tribal Liaison and Emergency Management Division over here on Camp Murray. And they are going to talk about the tribal program that the Washington Military Department has. And you two individuals have played a critical role in standing up this program and making it happen. And I appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So quick introduction and background on yourself. We'll start with Bill.
Basically, I'm a retired federal agent. And after I got back from Afghanistan, I was recruited as the public safety director for the Colville tribe. So it kind of was a matchup. I'm also a member of the Kiowa tribe of Oklahoma. And that's where my interests are going. But when I was with the Colvilles, I got called up for OSO in my capacity as a Washington State Guard member. And that's kind of where all this kind of came to fruition. As after OSO, the tribes made a request to the governor and for the WMD to try to step up their communication and cooperation and for us to figure out better ways of integrating with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Erik?
So I'm Erik Riske. I'm working for EMD as Tribal Liaison, like you said. Prior to that, I was a critical infrastructure protection manager for WATEC and the state's data centers. Prior to that, I was law enforcement and military. While I was in law enforcement, I got to work with quite a few different tribal programs, so I had some history there. And I also worked for the Nisqually tribe just down the road for almost 5 years. So when this job position opened up a year and a half ago, it seemed like a really great fit and been doing good things ever since.
Yeah, so Bill, you kind of alluded, we met, I think, in 2013 or 2014 when OSO happened. You were the tribal liaison at the time. I remember working with you early, into the incident. Talk about the program kind of before, Erik, you came in 2022. Mm-hmm. Talk about the program and where it was before just last year.
It was during OSO, there was basically no formal program. It was just basically handled by the LNO outpush. So when the SOC Squaddle got isolated by the OSO and there was kind of a breakdown in communications, that's when they decided to try this new approach of bringing me on orders because I was working for a tribe, so I understood, the organizational structure of the tribes and especially the sovereignties and jurisdictions and responsibilities of those people that had fiduciary responsibility for tribes. So it ended up as a success, as you know, which was really great. And then the other tribes got on and they decided that they wanted to push this a little bit further and figure out how we can better our relationships. Mm-hmm. Now, it should be said that the state had good relationships with the tribes, and they've always had good with the EMD side of the house. But I think the way I describe it mostly is it was like using a metric wrench on a regular nut.
It can turn it, but it's going to be a little tough.
So our goal was to try to fix that. So there was a tighter fit and more continuity of effort. And as we did along, the fires started coming up, and then I started getting activated for the fires, and that's when the Washington Military Department decided that maybe it'd be advantageous to have somebody that was on full time and staffed over at EMD. At the same time, have somebody who was a tribal subject matter expert and an LNO over at the JOC to advise military command and units as to what's going on in Indian country or to work out different projects.
Yeah.
And that's where Erik comes in.
Yeah, and then Erik, you came in 2022. Your position didn't exist, correct, before you came in?
That is my understanding. I think they had some part-time responsibilities, but obviously it wasn't a part-time job. So.
Yeah. So talk about kind of bringing your background in the military department and kind of what you've brought to the position.
Sure. So when I first came to the military department, I was working on the state pandemic AAR. I was kind of the project manager for that. Some of my experience has been project management and building programs. So having some of the tribal experience and having some of that background was a really nice fit for me. So when I came in here, I talked to executive management, Director Zell and all of them, and they were, really supportive. So financially, they gave me the opportunity to be able to go visit every tribe, which, Bill and I have talked, that is critically important. You need to be on site and have those conversations. So being able to do that, once I went out there and visited all the tribes, which I've already done, I'm going back through my second, third rounds. One of the big things was they wanted an opportunity to be able to meet with each other. And that helped drive the forum. So I brought that idea up, and basically they had the financial support for it. Said, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So we did that, and it's been growing ever since. We've identified that we want to support training. Like example, this next month we're doing the ICS 300 and 400 that we're sponsoring and paying for. It's going to be nothing but for tribal emergency managers.
Yeah.
So, we've been building this thing and creating those relationships. And, Bill, Randy, and I sat down in the very beginning when I took over. We had a great relationship. I have some of that project management background, some of these other things. So I'm working that angle. Bill had a lot of experience with all the different tribes personally. He welcomed me in, and we've been working really well together. And I think that's a great way to, demonstrate to the tribes, like, hey, we're working together. I don't know how well we've worked together in the past between EMD and MIL. I'm sure it's been great, but we were able to demonstrate that, firsthand for them to be able to see as an example. So that was really kind of how it all started.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, how many tribes are in Washington, and kind of briefly talk about that?
29 federally recognized tribes that are in Washington. And each one of them operate under a separate form of government. They have their own constitutions, their own organizations and cultures and relationships, because they do form a relationship under like the affiliated tribes, the Northwest Indians, and other different groups. But they operate independent of one another, and they are partners, equal partners with the state of Washington, and their recognized sovereignty is that set. So that's the individually the tribes is something that makes it important for the tribal L&O and working with the EMD and military command, because you can't just use that boilerplate like you would with the city or county. There, you have to kind of tailor-make everything for each tribe so that it works for them with their environment and their communities. So it can be difficult when you're talking about the outreach, because they're spread all over the state. So that means that you have to have visibility all over the states. And when you're talking about natural disasters, you have everything from tsunamis to wildfires, depending on the nature and environment and stuff like that. And in that case, we have to prepare to support our individual departments, either EMD or the military, and give them advice as to how they can interface with those tribes when called to that particular environment. Not only when you're talking about the tactical situation, but you're talking about a political situation, or kind of what we tested out when we did Evergreen Spill.
Yeah,
that's the whole purpose of Evergreen Spill on our end, was to test out the military's capability to respond to a tribe and operate under their ICS using our assets, but their laws, their command and control, their organizational structure. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned Evergreen Spill. That's kind of leading to my next question. Briefly describe Evergreen Spill. It was an exercise with the Colvilles. They led it, though. How did that all come about?
It kind of grew. It was one of those things that it started off small. And Master Sergeant August, who's part of the tribal L&O team with the JOC, he had been emergency manager up in the Colville tribe for a number of years, and he helped develop their comprehensive emergency management plan. So they needed some help tweaking it, and so he was dispatched to help. Well, they're up there. They decided, how can we exercise this plan? And so we had been working with the civil support team, the CSD, to come up with some exercise to where they could come out to a tribe and do their CST thing. Mm-hmm. And so we said, okay, this sounds good. Let's try this. And then once we started that, we found out that there are other jurisdictions and players that have wanted to exercise with the tribes for years. So before you knew it, we had the FBI, we had EPA, we had WSP, Bureau of Indian Affairs, a litany of different agencies that said, "Hey, why don't we just join in and we can test our SOPs and stuff as working with the tribes." We had the Bureau of Indian Affairs superintendents who have the federal responsibility on tribes, who have never participated in anything like this, and then the tribes themselves, who, even though they were leading it, this was kind of new for them, and their governance people showed up in force. So in all, we ended up with 85 participants, and actually grew to the point where we had to rent out an entire thing over at Northern Quest, and EMD was kind enough to come up with the funding for that. And it was an eye-opening experience, but it was a good experience, and I think there were a lot of lessons learned.
Yeah.
And
now, is there a follow-on kind of that's going to happen with Evergreen Spill, or is it still to be determined?
it's up to the tribes. For right now, it's in the tribes' hands. So, and they've indicated that they want what they call, a field training exercise at FTX, but that's massive. I mean, just planning for the tabletop was pretty intense.
Yeah.
We're probably talking push out to next year sometime, but again, it's in their hands. We're basically guests on their reservation, so if they want it and we can provide it, then we'll do it. I think we're going to let EMD take the lead this time because they have a huge planning section and stuff like that, and so we'll get in that forum. The reason we did it the way we did it this time is because we needed to exercise the military's new SOP, the standard operating procedures that we've created for the JOC. And now that we've got that done, now it's time to go back to kind of a regular format that's run by the EMD.
Yeah. And that leads to your office, Eric, and you kind of started the tribal forums with Bill. Briefly describe how those came about.
So again, during the tribal visits, like I said, the big thing that came up was we would really like to have the opportunity to have conversations with each other, tribal emergency managers. So I brought the idea to Director Rizal through my chain of command, and also had conversations with Bill and Randy about, especially the very first one. We were, definitely having those conversations, setting that up. But that's kind of how it came about. And basically during those sessions, we're looking at different topics of interest that the tribal emergency managers want to have conversations about and learn about. Different programs with EMD that are available, mitigation planning, grants, different things that could help their programs individually. But also, we're trying to put unique twists on it. So like even at the very end, we would reserve an hour where it's just the tribal emergency managers having conversation, and everyone else would leave the room so that they would have their time. And they really, really appreciated that. In fact, we had some good pictures of them. They'll just circle up the chairs and just have a long conversation for an hour, hour and a half. It was just really productive, and it was well received, and they really liked it. So we're going to be doing it once a year now. We were doing it twice a year, but we invited FEMA to the last one in spring, and they said, "Whoa, that looked great. We would like to do that." So they're going to do one in the spring and May, which is great because that's even better. It's providing more resources and opportunities for them to learn and pick up on things. But they're going to do that in the spring, and we're going to continue doing it in the fall. So we just kind of split that up.
Yeah.
So.
For like anything, right? I mean, training and talking with your peers and stuff, it's always critical. In a tribal setting, how critical is it for your folks, when you got emergency managers talking to each other? I imagine it's incredibly critical because that doesn't often happen even at a county level.
Yeah, that's really, really critical. And I'll say even with the spill exercise that we did, and I was present for and participated a little bit, but having that networking opportunity amongst all of the different agencies and people and individuals, if you think about it, if you have that awareness of who these people are, and then if something actually happens, they're not strangers, oh, I've worked with this person before in this exercise, and that's powerful. Yeah. Just getting those relations. And so I think that was a really important element too that wasn't stated that I noticed was big. So.
And that's part of the outreach program that we're doing. I mean, we're doing a couple outreach programs now to get the military side of the house out and kind of get that knowledge and that, the communication started with each one of the tribes, like the IRT program, the Innovative Readiness Training Program. Mm-hmm. Once we got it out to the tribes, we have a lot of tribes that are now participating in it. We're going to be going out to Nisqually tomorrow to work with the Triple Nickel to go out and take a look at a possible project. But just let the tribes know what is available within our sphere, and then for them to feel comfortable about making requests for us to come out there has been a big win on that side. So it's getting better and better. It's just a lot of work, and we have to keep it up. One of the things that we're trying to do on the military side is increase our capacity as far as tribal outreach, which we're working with the diversity and recruitment and retention people on. But other than that, just be available for all the units to be tribal subject matter experts, and that's becoming more and more where we're having different units calling in and saying, hey, we're having contact with the tribe. How do we address this situation? But that's good, because it's better that they go into these type of situations with some sort of knowledge than just stumble into it, because that can become more problematic than not.
Yeah. Eric, anything to add on that at all?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah. What's kind of next for the program? I mean, Bill, you kind of highlighted everything, I think, right there.
I like I said, it's all a matter of, I know that I have to testify on Thursday, I guess, before the legislature. So I guess our fate is in the hands of those who make decisions. We'll just keep doing what we're doing and supporting one another as we move forward.
Yeah. Anything to add?
Well, so the future for my side with EMD would be, we're looking at, right now we're working with the Makah tribe. We're getting ready to do a tsunami exercise in the spring. So we've been working through that, making sure that they're feeling comfortable with their reports and the things leading up to this. So there's a lot of planning around that. In fact, I'm going to be heading up there next week to go on site and look at the venue and visit and go through that. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. And then Bill kind of touched on it too. There's a lot of things going on with Ledge. Like, we work with Jim regularly. We have monthly meetings and have conversations about things. And, obviously when we're having lots of communications, things come up, like the volunteer worker program, different things. Like, there's some things that the tribes have not been recognized in, related to legislative stuff. So we're working on those. In fact, I don't know if you want to go any more on that, but there's some bills that are moving forward to help strengthen their posture. And so, yeah.
And we're also doing a lot of outreach to the Tribal Veterans Association, especially using the Washington State Guard as kind of a portal for tribal veterans that want to come back into the fold, because they really do admire military service and hold it in high regard. So we are constantly out there working with the veterans associations that are on each one of the tribes to step up that recruitment for those who want to participate. And as they come on board, then we can train them, and then they can be the tribal outreach component out on the tribes. So that's an ongoing effort that will continue.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Anything else to add before we close, or?
No.
We just always trying to work on becoming better neighbors, and that's the way we look at it. Not necessarily partners, but more as good neighbors. So that's the whole idea.
Which I think is kind of the whole military department. We're just trying to be better neighbors and help each other when times happen. We need each other. So we appreciate you coming on. If you're interested in learning more about the Tribal Liaison program, we can definitely put Eric and Bill's information in the notes. If you have a question, put it in the comments. If you like the video, give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for future videos. We appreciate you coming out, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.